John, welcome back to TRunblocked.com. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Can we start this conversation by you walking us briefly through how you see the trends in the business currently?
How I see the trends in the business, and this is globally, is food costs have gone up about 25%. Restaurant costs are out of control. And what I see is restaurateurs and bar owners are taking the price of beverage alcohol up to try to compensate for the lost revenue on the food side of the business. But we're not able to take our prices up. However, when it comes to travel and travel retail, I see that business growing nicely, and our travel retail business is doing very well. But hotel costs are another cost that have gone up exorbitantly, and I'll talk more about that later with you.
Okay, we just touched on it. You've enjoyed a considerable degree of success since we last spoke in May, with continued rise in listings across the globe. What's unfolded for you?
Well, we picked off a few locations in Canada that we didn't have, Halifax and Edmonton, and then we were fortunate to secure Lagardère for Europe. So we got Rome, Nice, Paris, just to name a few. So there's still a few we need to pick up, but we're on the right track.
If I look at your trade advertising moment, it says America's favorite vodka for a reason. What is the reason, John?
It's simple. The package is simple, and it's a high-quality vodka that's gluten-free, and people like the fact that the owner is a single entrepreneur whose last name happens to be Beverage. So it was destiny.
But actually, it's quite nice because the hook is it's local, and yet you're global now as a business.
Yeah, his focus was very much so the United States and then Canada. But in the last 10 years, we've taken them into 151 countries around the world, countless airports, and we're in many military installations. So we've seen some nice growth on the brand internationally. And it's not just Americans that are drinking it now, we're getting local consumers in many markets.
When you go to airports now, particularly the new ones that you're at, are you doing any promotional activities, or are you just letting it stand on shelf?
No. We always do promotional activities. For example, this will be this year's ugly jumper that retailers will have.
Really cool.
And every year it's different, so people are collecting them. And then during the May, June, and July, we have the red, white, and blue bag to celebrate America's birthday. And then we do many promotions. We have ambassadors in some airports. We do tastings. We just finished a month-long tasting in Dublin Airport.
Okay, but I mean, are retailers getting it in terms of the space allocation to vodka generally as a spirit within the category? I mean, you've been harping on about this for quite some time. Are they actually responding to what you've been saying?
So I've seen in the last 6 months that retailers are paring back on the gin category. There's only so many gins they can stock on their shelf. And let's face it, the top 5 or 6 gins do the 80 to 90% of the business. So now they are expanding their vodka offerings. So I'm very happy to see that.
I think there's a clear market for premiumization. Certainly premium gins are the way forward. But you're right, there's a plethora of other brands there that simply not doing the business.
Yes, they're just gathering dust on the shelf. Again, I think I'm at the risk of repeating myself. When you walk into some airports and see 3 wall bays of gin versus 1 wall bay of vodka, it just doesn't make sense. So now I think they're seeing that they need to delist some of the gins that they have.
Now, one of the bugbears that we've discussed before is the need for greater digitalization in the business. Do you see any evidence of anything new or original or meaningful initiatives that are taking place?
I'm glad you asked that question. During the course of this show and other shows, I talk about this, and people say to me, oh, so-and-so's working on this, so-and-so's working on that. And yet, I have not seen any digital solution for the consumer in the travel retail channel. And I believe that research needs to be done to show that we're losing the younger consumer when it comes to shopping in travel retail. They don't know what duty-free means, the younger generation. So we need to educate them. And I think the airport authority, the retailer, and the beverage brands and confectionery tobacco, all need to get together and figure out a solution.
Do you think that should be coordinated by the associations?
Absolutely, I think that's the right place to go. TFWA should be spearheading this. They have the names of all the members, and they should get everybody together and figure out how we digitalize this industry.
Well, whilst talking about TFWA, there is a notable bugbear around one particular discussion, one particular topic. It's tackling the issue of the costs that are increasingly on the rise from existing TFWA chosen locations, notably Singapore and Cannes. I mean, in your view, what criteria should be adopted when looking for an alternative site, and should an alternative site now be actively looked at? Secondly, what role should TFWA organisation properly play when it comes to negotiating hotel accommodation or leveraging restaurants to just basically get a better and fairer deal than we're experiencing at the moment?
In my opinion, for TFWA to be successful for the next 40 years, costs need to be kept in line. And I think costs are getting out of line here. When some of the hotels around here, the name hotels, want to charge 850 to 950 euro for a standard room, that's out of control. And I can speak to this because I was chairman of the Massachusetts Convention Center Authority, and I did 8 years and 2 months as chairman. And over that time, when a show comes in and we're discussing hosting that show, we're able to show them we have X number of hotel room blocks in the $300 range, so your people can come. And sure, some people want to push the envelope, but they have to commit to us a number of rooms for us to be able to go and sell that show on Boston, as an example. So I think that I also believe there should be a bidding process if there isn't one already in place. I'm not sure because I'm not on the board, but the next person at TFWA should put out a bid to host this convention. I'm sure there's other locations in Europe that could do a good job of hosting this.
You have any in mind?
Well, Dusseldorf, is one that comes to mind. That's a very large venue that I believe could host this. I don't know all the details, of course.
And that's Provine, isn't it? I mean, I know it is a massive show.
Yeah, Provine. It takes you forever to walk from one end of that show to the other. And there's plenty of public transportation. It's relatively close to the airport. That's another consideration when they're looking at other locations, the proximity to the airport.
But I really wonder how important restaurants are in the mix when it comes to doing business in these locations.
Yeah, well,
Dusseldorf has got a pretty good offering.
Yeah.
It's not essential as Cannes. Everything's in walking distance, isn't it?
Yes. Restaurants play a key, but that's a little trickier when it comes to trying to work out deals with restaurants. It's more about the hotel rooms. And another example, I wanted to take a taxi from Nice to here. It cost 125 euro. It cost me in a taxi.
I think the going rate's 95. How did you get stung that way?
I asked them to drive normal. So maybe it took them a little longer to get here.
Yes. Went by the Alps. Okay, right. Yeah, I've had some number of experiences here. There was something about the attitude, but it's welcome at times and not so much otherwise.
And speaking of hotels, you could also say, well, you don't have to stay in a hotel. You could stay in an Airbnb. Some of my colleagues just rented an Airbnb. And there's 3 of them, and they told me how great an idea this was. In the last 36 hours, that great idea is turned into, it's not such a great idea. One of my colleagues said to the owner of the Airbnb, hey, we're running out of toilet paper here. And do you know what the owner said to them?
Go buy some.
Go buy some. There's a store down the street.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm staying in a hotel room that's the equivalent of a tiny hospital room. I couldn't wheel my roll-on into the room because the door was hitting the bathroom door, which was hitting a shelf.
What are you paying for it, John?
I'm paying for 5 nights, 1,250 euro. So I'm definitely...
A lot of money for nothing.
Right. I'm paying for what I get.
Yeah, when 2 or 3 star hotels cost 250 euros or more a night, it's a farce.
Yeah, I'm 41 years in the business, and now I'm back to hotel rooms. So, yeah,
accommodation.
exactly.
All right, okay. So, I don't know, John, I mean, maybe this is a bit of a cheeky question, but I don't know why you don't put your hat in the ring for the presidency of TFWA.
Yeah, absolutely not. It's like herding cats. Been there, done that.
Okay, all right. Let's just flip the question. What changes would you generally like to see the new president put in place that will benefit the business as a whole, other than putting the tender out for the location for this business?
I think a top priority has to be coming up with a digital solution for consumers so they can pre-order their products ahead of getting to the airport and having them delivered to them at the airplane door. That has to be a top priority. The next priority for the new president is I hope that he has an organization that is more user-friendly to its members. I mean, we had a challenge about this show, and it took forever to get somebody to respond to us. We're a business organization, and we need to be treated like one. And the other suggestion is just comes from today. Do not pick political polarizing figures to address the organization. I don't want my money going to somebody that's divisive. Forget which political affiliation you have. That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. The person didn't bring a business sense to this convention.
You're talking about Hillary Clinton?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I hear otherwise that she was actually quite good within the box, the cocoon that she talked. But whether it's actually relevant to this business, I don't know. I'm inclined to agree with you that we need to have a business leader that can offer some fresh thinking.
I bet you if we did a poll right here, it'll be 50-50.
Yes, I'm sure you're right.
Just like the world.
Yeah. Just to close the conversation, John, and it's the usual three things that I ask you to say that you'd like to communicate to the industry. What would they be?
Still continue to give more shelf space to vodkas. It's one of the largest categories in the world. 2, we need more formats of sizes in the duty-free stores because the consumer also doesn't just want liters. They like other sizes as well. And the last thing is we got to figure out to come together and make digital solution for this industry.